Hey guys, welcome back to the Bart Show. My name is Bart Baggett. I am the host, and I am on a quest for the world's most interesting people. And I believe I found one. It's not just doctor, it's Doctor
Double doctor, yes.
Rainer Zitelmann. I love the fact that in Germany you have to put two DRs in front of your name. I just think that's so fantastic. I've never earned one. So can I borrow one of yours?
Maybe, why not? Why not? But the people in Austria are even more crazy. Yes, they put every title there in front.
All
of them.
the titles?
Yes, yes.
In the front?
Yes, yes. When they studied only maybe a bachelor or something like this, they all put it in the front in Austria.
That would speak to me that status is incredibly important in those countries.
Yes, seems so.
One of your books, you had and I watched a little online, you had an article or video about status and about how some countries really value success and money more than other countries. And which is interesting because in the last 20 years, they even have a happiness category on Amazon, which is about values, which is just values such as money or wealth is one of dozens of values as family and harmony and happiness and peace and freedom. What did your conclusion out of all these countries? You did 11 or Western countries, Asia. Like, what was the conclusion, and how can we learn from that?
Yes, exactly. I commissioned a poll, as you mentioned, in 11 countries about the attitude toward rich people, and one of the question was, how important is it personally for you to grow rich? And the interesting thing is, in Western Europe and the United States, it was on average 28%. But in Asian countries, it was 58%. So wow. 30 percentage points more. On the top were Vietnamese people with 76% of the people said that they want to grow rich. So it's a huge difference between Asia on the one hand and Europe and United States on the other hand.
Do you think it's the starting point? You think that question says where I am now, which means I'm a poor country and I want to be rich? Or in some cases like Western Europe, where there's a lot of middle class, is it because of where the starting point, or is it because they are?
It could be a part of the explanation, but what speaks against it, even in Japan, it's for 43%, and Japan is a very developed country.
Sure.
I think in Asia, it's a different attitude toward success. It's a different attitude toward rich people. Even on New Year, if you meet someone in China, you wish him, I wish you a lot of money. So you would say it in the United States.
Instead of Happy New Year, it's I wish you a lot of money.
Yes, you would say it in the United States. I don't think so.
How does that conflict with the basic, not current communism, which is a kind of a blend of a capitalism communism, but how did they become so hungry for wealth and success when they were just unable to and told for years that everybody's supposed to be equal? Because that's what communism was for so many years in that country.
Absolutely. They were not allowed to, but you have to understand that everything started in China with their economic progress, with Deng Xiaoping in the beginning of the 80s with his slogan, let some people become rich first. This was his slogan. This was the starting point.
I feel unfair with that slogan.
Deng Xiaoping, let some people become rich. And I tell you something, this was exactly what happened. In the end of the 50s, before, there was a greatest socialist experiment in history, the so-called Great Leap Forward. 45 million people died at this time. 45 million people died. And then, in 1981, 88% of people in China were extreme poverty. 88%.
What year?
1981,
wow.
After Mao's death. Today, it's less than 1%. And this never happened before in history. And now what's important? The same time, the number of billionaires increased dramatically. In Mao's time, of course, there was not even a single billionaire.
Right, of course.
Maybe one millionaire, Mao, maybe himself. Yes. Today, you have more billionaires living in Beijing than in New York, Manhattan, what a lot of people don't know. And even the numbers of billionaires in China is as big as in the United States. And why is this important? Because socialists, leftists, believe in this zero-sum thinking. They believe that rich people become only rich because they take it away from the poor. But this is crazy.
Who says that? The communists?
All socialists. This is their
socialists believe that you can't get rich unless you take from others.
Yes, I
call it zero-sum game.
I call it zero-sum
There's
thinking.
a limited amount of assets,
yes.
and if I'm rich, I have to take yours.
Yes, and this is exactly, proved by this development in China, that it is not true, because if at the same time the number of billionaires increased from 0 to 700, and the number of people living in extreme poverty decreased from 88 to less than 1%,
right.
You see that it's wrong.
Right. So is that an endorsement of the current China political system, or it's more of a assessment that these socialists and these old ideas were just wrong? They just messed up in their thinking.
You have to distinguish between their political system, what I, of course, don't like in any way. It's a one-party system. It's no freedom of speech, no freedom of press, and all these things. I hate this kind of political system. But in the economy, you have to understand, why were they so successful? I have a friend in Beijing University, and he told me always, it was not because of the state, but in spite of the state, because they introduced private property, pro-market reforms. And so you see, capitalism, of course, it's not a pure capitalist system, but it's nowhere in the world. Even in the United States, there's no pure capitalist. It's always a mixture between capitalism and socialism.
Only in a book by Ayn Rand do we have pure capitalism. In a fictional world.
In a fictional world.
Long time ago, there was pure capitalism.
But what's important for me, I have something, imagine a test tube with two ingredients, market, state. Capitalism, socialism, and then look what happens if you give more market in the test tube. This is what happened in China.
More market.
Or if you give more state, as they did in Venezuela in the last 20 years. So you see what happens. It's very easy to understand.
Well, it's because, why is it government officials are so incompetent? Because there's no self-incentive, there's no self-responsibility, there's no desire or opportunity to make their family better, so they're just victims, or they just dial it in. That's my version of the psychology, is that's just why I've always been a capitalist, and I always believe that I can take responsibility for my success and failures.
It's such an important point, what you mentioned, victim mentality. This is something I really hate. And I tell you something, I tell you a story of someone born in the United States, 1930, black, poor, one of the poorest families in his hometown. He never met his father. His mother died with 31 years, and then he became blind with 7 years. So, and later on, you know him. It's Ray Charles.
Okay.
He was one of the most successful. If you look in the official, Rolling Stone ranking, he's the most successful male singer in the world.
Wow.
Yes, in history, even more than John Lennon or Paul McCartney.
Or Elvis.
And you see, this is what speaks against victim mentality. He could have so many reasons why not to be successful. Sure. And of course, he had problems. Time in his life, he was addicted to drugs, heroin.
Right.
And
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but then, important, what he said, it was not because I was black, it was not because I was blind, it was not because I was poor, it was only my own decision. Yes, and this is the philosophy.
It's the core responsibility of you.
The opposite of, or maybe have you seen videos from Nick Vujicic? Do you know him?
Read that again.
Nick Vujicic.
No.
He has no arms. He has no legs.
Okay.
No arms, no legs. He has a very pretty wife. He has 4 children. He is a famous speaker. He reached millions of people in the world. He met 17 presidents from countries. If he has no excuse, where's your excuse? Where is it? I don't see it. You have 2 arms. You have 2 legs. You're not blind.
Right.
Like the same with Stephen Hawking. One of the most famous scientists in the world.
So I agree with all those examples, and I even have some in my book. However, when the average person sees those, they go, well, Michael Jordan was exceptionally talented. Somebody was exceptionally great in physics. Somebody was exceptionally musicianal. And I was like, I don't think so. I watched that, I've seen how hard people work to get where they are.
My answer would be start to be exceptional. And you don't have to be as successful as Ray Charles, maybe, but you can successful. Only a last example. I had an interview with Eric Weinmeier. He's American, and he was the first blind man to climb the Mount Everest. But this was not enough for him. Mount Everest. He climbed the 7 summits, the 7 highest mountains in 7 continents, and he's blind. So where's your excuse? You don't have to climb the 7 summits. Maybe Mount Everest is enough for you.
Maybe one.
Yes, maybe only one.
Listen, I flew a plane over Mount Everest, and that was enough for me. I was like, he's so cold. Okay, we're going to take a short break. I want to come back and ask you about your book called Wealth Elite. I want to glance at your handwriting, and we're going to find more from you at your Google, Amazon. You got Amazon books all over. Just Google your name, Rainer, R-A-I-N-E-R, Zitelmann. I'm going to try that German pronunciation. Rainer Zitelmann.
Not really correct. I can tell you how. It's in German, Rainer Zitelmann, but I know it's easy, Rainer Zitelmann, and this is the American version of my name.
We'll be right back with The Bart Show.
Okay, I liked it.
Fun, man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I knew it was going to be fun and easy. It's difficult because you're so smart, and if you get into lecture mode, you talk about facts and figures.
Yes.
We need to have a playful conversation, so it's kind of like a party conversation. It's a little bit different than lecture. Let him do his thing. We want to make sure that all the buttons are working. Oh, everything's running? We didn't cut it all? Okay. Okay. Okay, and we're back. Thanks for watching. This has been a fascinating interview. Dr. Zitelmann, or is it Dr. Zitelmann? Because you're twice as smart as the normal doctor.
One is enough.
One is enough.
And even you can leave it away.
He's written a lot of interesting books. He even wrote a sample of handwriting for me. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm one of the top handwriting experts in America. And part of what I do besides the forensics is we have personality. And I like what I see here. I like the speed of your thinking. I like the enthusiasm. This really cursive Y that looks like a snake means that you're fluid of thinking and you never have a lack of what to say. Could you connect one to the other? I've done 1,500 radio shows, and most of the best hosts in America have this trait. So you would make a good radio host and a good speaker. And I know you're a writer. Do you speak a lot as well, I assume?
Yes, I do.
Because your mind just makes that happen. Your probably only downfall is you're impatient with dumb people and you're stubborn.
Absolutely, you got it. Yes, always with dumb people. But okay, God made the decision to make more dumb people than intelligent. We have to accept it.
Well, I may not accept the God part, but I accept the dumb people part. So tell me about the Wealth Elite. I have a book called Success, Rich and Happy. I've interviewed multimillionaires, a few billionaires, but I still find it fascinating that you did an entire official study to figure out why are they different? And here's my question, and you can explain more about the study. 30 million to what? 100 million in revenue, or not revenue, assets, right?
Net worth, it was, most of them had between 30 million and 1 billion. There were some of them who had like 2 or 3 billion, and there were some who had only 20 million, but most of them 30 million to 1 billion.
Okay, so just tell our listeners they weren't any happier and they really are unhappy. I'm kidding, you know that, right?
whether they're happy. A lot of time people ask me, does money make you happy? I don't know whether you have the saying in the United States. In Germany, you have money alone doesn't make you happy. Do you say this as well?
We say it, but not enough people say it. Sure. Because they think that money equals happiness, they forget that money buys opportunity and relationships and things.
Money is freedom for me. It's freedom.
Money equals freedom.
Yes, it equals freedom. And if I ask you, does freedom makes you happy? I think then the answer is clear.
It does unless you don't have it. Yeah, so if you don't have freedom in prison, freedom is the only thing you want. Yes. But if you're sitting around, walking around a mountain, you have freedom, now you need food, now you need relationships. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it really depends on where you start, because someone who's in a war-torn country, all they want is peace. But I've never been in a war-torn country, at least on my shores. So while peace is very important to me, I would say love is more important, or freedom, or creativity.
But you know, if people tell me money alone doesn't make you happy, of course it's true. But the same is true if I would say sex alone doesn't make you happy. But what would be a life without good sex? Or it's
and saying that people that usually say money doesn't make you happy either have so much money they're like, hey, another $100 million is not going to make you any more happy, or they have no money, which means security would make them happy. So if you have no money, food, shelter would make you very, very freaking happy. So it really depends on where the perspective they're coming from.
I think the problem is if you have not enough money, money becomes so important. listen what people, their conversation, poor people, what they talk about. They talk too much about money. It's all about their money problems, yes?
And other people that cause their problems and their victims,
Yes,
and
yes.
the government should do more. I very rarely hear politicians, I really rich people talk about how they're victims.
The government should do more. Let's tell me.
That's a poor person
yes,
conversation.
Yes. Let's tell me a funny story about this. I was in South America some weeks ago, in Argentina, very poor city. And I had a lecture for young people. And there are so many people in Argentina who believe the state should do everything for me.
Wow.
But there were young people, libertarian people. And there was one sitting in the first row. He didn't look really handsome, so I thought maybe he has no girlfriend. And I asked him, would you like to have a pretty girlfriend? Oh, no, do you have a pretty girlfriend? He said, no, I don't have. This is what I expected.
Right.
And then I asked him, would you like to have a pretty girlfriend? He said, yes, I would. I said, what would you expect who would bring you this pretty girlfriend? The government, maybe the state? And he was laughing. No, I don't expect it. So, but who should do it? And he said, yes, it's only on me. I said, you get it, yes? This is with everything what is important in life. It's on you.
I can steal that. I really want to steal that from my events. I love that because for housing and medical and healthcare, the government should bring it.
Yes.
But you're like, hey, if you want a pretty girlfriend, look at you, buddy. Look at you. So tell me a little bit. So you interviewed all these people and you researched these people. Is there any distinguishing difference between the people at this conference here and the 30 to billionaires? How do they think differently?
Yes, of course there is, because if they would act in the same way as everyone else, they wouldn't be so rich. So they should act different and think different, and they do. Let me give you 2 points as an example. One, this was a point we were talking about. They take the responsibility not only for their success, but also for their setbacks and their failure. This was very important, every one of them. And the other thing, these were people who enjoyed swimming against the stream. And I think it's logical. If you do the same thing as everyone else, you can't get super rich. You have to do things different. I met here at the conference Jim Rogers. I met him different times in Singapore. He's one example for this contrarian investor. He has really fun to do things, to swim against the tide and do things different. Yeah. And then I think this is something that we can learn from these people.
Is that similar to a pack mentality? So when they had the flowers in, Dutch, when they had the flower thing in the Netherlands in 1500, everybody bought poppy seeds, right? Yes. When they had Bitcoin, when they had the stock markets, when my maid is buying Bitcoin, I'm out. Like, I'm like, if it's to the point where everybody and their maid is now knowing, I feel like that's where the herd's going. So you're saying they're seeing where the masses are going and they're taking it. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. This is what you call swim against the tide, or contrarian, exactly what you mentioned. Sometimes, maybe yesterday I met your Jim Rogers, and he mentioned that he bets on the dollar right now. I was a little bit surprised because this is not contrarian, because at this time everything is pro-dollar. But he said sometimes you have to play the dump anyway to go with the mercy. But then he said, if I see there's a big bubble, I will short the dollar. Then.
Of course.
Hopefully, I will check it early enough. The point. This is a problem, of course.
Oh my God, I can talk to you forever. And what I like about you is you have the same philosophy as I do. We came to it from different areas. You're more of a researcher. What are some of the top books people should get? I have a lot of fans in India. I know you have Amazon books on India, have Amazon books in the US, the UK, many different languages. For our listeners, where would they go? Just search your name on Amazon and look at what you got?
Absolutely, yes. And for example, my book, Dare to be Different and Grow Rich, is in 12 languages, and it's also in India. But my next book will be published in 30 languages, yes.
Impressive.
Yes, and it will be published in the United States in January. It's In Defense of Capitalism, Debunking the Myths. And I even signed contracts for Mongolia and Nepal for this book, sir.
Wow, I have 2 fans in Nepal, 2.
Where?
Nepal. I visit Nepal quite a bit when I'm in India.
I've never been there. I've never been there, but I will go there. I promise them for every country I'll travel there, I'm going there.
Don't hike the mountain. Yeah. There's no reason to hike Mount Everest. No, it is so cold up there. Yeah. The odds of coming down is like 1 in 10. Like the odds of dying is like 1 in 10. You're like, those odds don't seem like
Oh,
good to
yes,
me.
I
I mean, I
agree.
got an ego. I want to prove something, but not that bad.
But we are here in Las Vegas. What I don't understand, I see here a lot of people, they put money in an automat that is programmed that they lose money. I can't understand why they do it. They call it fun to put money in an automat that is programmed this way that they lose it. So
Because they're very bad at math.
maybe, but they said it's fun. But I saw them sitting there in the hotel. I saw no fun in their face. So
There's actually a very interesting mechanism of why this. I have an article called "I Love You Like a Slot Machine,"
yeah.
and it's this dopamine reaction of when someone touches your hand or they love you, and if a woman or a man is inconsistent with the dopamine, they actually love them more because the slot machine has an unpredictable payoff, and then you get your heartbeat moving, then dopamine hits.
Ah, you tell me it's the same as if a pretty woman touched my hand?
But if she touches it, but then it's unpredictable the next time, then you want her more. If she touches it every time, it becomes less important.
Okay, I understand. But then I would prefer the thing with a woman than with an automat.
Well, because you like unpredictability. That's the problem with
Yes,
human
yes,
nature.
I
If it's
understand.
all predictable, it's
Yes.
no longer interesting, which is why they have slot machines
Okay.
and they have beautiful
Really,
women that
sir?
don't always say yes to us, sir.
No, it doesn't happen. We know it. Yes. It would be boring, maybe. I don't know, but I would like it for a couple of days.
This has been Dr. Rainer Zitelmann. You've been a great guest. Thanks for being on the Bart Show. My name is Bart Baggett. Please go buy all his books, support him, and when your next book drops, come back on the show and we'll promote it more.
We keep in contact. Thank you for this. Had a little fun. Thank you.